Good morning and welcome to the daily weather operations brief. Starting off today, we're seeing some low-level cloud cover overspreading much of the local area, along with some upper-level clouds off to the east. And we're expecting a somewhat modest day as far as winds go, winds gusting upwards of around 22 knots, right around getting into wind advisory territory there. So a slight chance of seeing such as we move through the day, and we'll cover all of that here in a couple slides. Overall, seeing a good chance of picking up some measurable rain through the form of some thunderstorms later this afternoon and into the evening hours, and we should see things start tapering off once we get past midnight. Things should really be pushing offshore by that time. Taking a look at the radar out there as of current, we're looking good. Just some light clutter as far as any reflectivity goes, and no indicated precipitation in the immediate vicinity. And then taking a look at this morning's surface analysis here for a look at the day ahead, we're going to be watching that approaching cold front that's tied to an upper level trough and a deepening low. That is set to cross the region later this afternoon and into the overnight hours and bring us those rain chances. Off to the west, we can see that convection is currently ongoing over Ohio and into the northeast. However, it does look to stay far enough west as of current to allow for some midday heating and destabilization, at least across the eastern shore. That's going to push our temperatures into the low 80s this afternoon and set the stage for some thunderstorm development later on in those PM hours. And then as we get into the late afternoon, early evening time frame, we can anticipate seeing those rain chances building in and thunderstorms beginning to form and moving across the region. The Storm Prediction Center does currently have us under a slight risk for severe weather, with our main concerns for today being the chance of some potentially damaging winds, and while less likely, there is a low-end chance of seeing an isolated tornado tonight. Overall, chances do look to really ramp up after 7 p.m. and then continue in through those overnight hours before pushing offshore later tonight into early tomorrow morning. Might see some scattered storms or pop-up showers earlier in the day, but the main feature will be later in those overnight hours. As of our current weather observations, we're seeing low-level clouds broken at 400 feet and broken clouds offshore there at 25,000 feet, 3 statute miles of visibility, and winds out of the south at about 10 knots, a temperature of 75 degrees, and relative humidity coming in at 97%. A very sticky morning out there. And then taking a glance at our current satellite imagery here, we can see that fog overspreading much of the Tidewater region and the east coast. As of current, we'll start to see that kind of burning away once the sun really gets to work here. And we can also see that upper level cloud cover continuing to push offshore, and in its wake, aside from the fog overspreading the area, we are going to see some potentially pretty clear skies there before we see some midday cumulus start developing. Looking at the model run for today, this is the HER high-resolution model on a 24-hour loop. It does an all right job of depicting scattered storms moving through tonight and comes into reasonable agreement with many of the other high-res and global models as far as timing goes, but we can certainly see that there will be some heavy rain moving through and across the eastern shore here, anticipating that impacting our region later tonight. And for our 24-hour outlook, we can see those rain chances building and into the area after noon. Once we start climbing into that time frame, we'll see pop-up showers become likely, and then once we move further into closer to 7-8 o'clock range, we'll see the chance of that line moving through with an elevated chance of both precip and lightning. Additionally, since these storms are going to be convective, seeing a yellow for our winds, might see some convectively driven gusts throughout. Otherwise, will be sustained in that 10 to 15 knot range for a majority of the afternoon today. And then once that system starts pushing out, we'll also see the chance of that low-level cloud cover building back into the region as temperatures drop and there will be plentiful moisture across the area. And to round us off for the daily weather brief, looking at the next 2 days ahead, on Wednesday, partly cloudy conditions, should be plenty of sunshine, allowing for some slight chances of afternoon pop-up showers or thunderstorms. Things looking slightly breezy at times, especially if we have a thunderstorm or a shower in the immediate vicinity. Looking at highs climbing into and around the mid-80s. Wednesday night, partly cloudy, should still remain mostly clear and a low around 70, just below. And then Thursday, partly cloudy once again, similar to Wednesday, with a slight chance of an afternoon pop-up shower or thunderstorm. And winds do look to be a little bit more subdued, but pretty close to what we'll experience on Wednesday, and a high of 82. Now that's going to conclude the daily weather operations brief, and we will be back at 10 o'clock with the 7-day outlook. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Tuesday.